There are no bad businesses. There are just those people who don't know enough to see the opportunities in the work they're in. If there seems to be no future or opportunity in it, it isn't always because it's not there, but perhaps only because we can't see it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Monday Mindsets. Again, it's Luke Acree coming at you on Monday. I'm a little under the weather right now, but not from a cold, but actually from a migraine. I suffer from migraines. But I was thinking this morning, right? So many times when it comes to being a top producer in your space and in your life, you can't let external circumstances affect your productivity, right? Or affect your activity. So often in this life, what happens to us is external things come in, whether it's a migraine or something like that. And those things we let influence us. And I had the opportunity to bring Jocko. He wrote the book, Extreme Ownership. And so I had the ability to bring him in to speak to my organization during the pandemic. And one of the things that stuck with me that he said that, look, top performers, their emotions might be going like this, but their discipline is like this. They're locked in. So it doesn't matter how your emotions are feeling, but your discipline should be locked in. So it doesn't matter that I have a migraine. I'm going to show up anyways. I'm going to bring the activity because it's the activity that produces the results. And today, I want to talk about goal setting. So goal setting is something that we're probably all doing right now. In our businesses and in our lives. It's in December. We have literally, I pulled it up, this countdown right here. There's literally 25 days, 13 hours, 56 minutes and 52 seconds left in the year. So you got 25 days, almost 26 days to get clear on your goals. And we just walked through the goal setting process for my organization. So I run a company called Reminder Media. We are a sales and marketing company, help thousands of insurance agents, but I have about 300 team members. So we just went through the process of setting our goals, setting our budget, setting the goals per department. And I want to walk you guys through some of my mindset when it comes to setting goals. And I would love for you to chat in whenever you watch this, whether you're watching it live or you watch this later. I'd love to hear how you think about setting your goals, because I think that could be super valuable for this community in the insurance syndicate to learn how each of us process setting our goals. And I want to start with sharing, hey, why are goals important? Why do you actually need to set goals in your life? And then also, why do people fail at their goals? If you look at New Year's resolutions, right, 80% of New Year's resolutions, supposedly, according to the studies, are done by February. People can't even last from January to February with their New Year's resolutions. Why does that happen when you're setting goals? And I want to share with you that if you find yourself in your life, you want to be more fulfilled, you want to be happier, you want to be the next version of yourself, it comes down to the goals. That's why goals are so important. And here's the thing you got to understand about goals. Complexity is the enemy of clarity, and you have to have clarity in order to execute. Complexity is truly the enemy of execution, because when things are complex, when you don't know where things are, you don't know how things work, you don't have clarity. And when you don't have clarity, you don't execute. And write this down. When you confuse, you lose. So that's a term in marketing. If somebody comes to your website and they're confused by what they see on your website, you've lost. You have literally split seconds to be able to direct them to the activity that you want them to take. If you confuse, you lose. The same applies to your goals. If you are confused on what you're trying to accomplish in your life, you've already lost. You've got to get crystal clear. I wrote this quote down by Zig Ziglar. So, he's the godfather of sales training, or one of them. He said this: if you can't hit a target you can't see, and you cannot see a target you don't have. So you can't hit a target you can't see, and you cannot see a target that you don't have. Why is it important to set goals? Because that's your target. Imagine right now if I told you to go down to the local Walmart and find Steve Acree. I don't tell you anything about Steve Acree or anything like that. I just tell you to go down and find Steve Acree. It would just be absolute chaos. You don't even know what Walmart to go to. There's no clarity. And because there's no clarity, it's really hard for you to execute and really hard for you to achieve that goal. So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about a couple things to help you really think through setting your goals and what I think about. And the first thing that I think you have to think about is the number one gift that we're given in this life. The number one gift that literally controls everything for us is God's given us the gift of choices. We have the ability to make choices in our lives. And I know that might seem simplistic, but I think it's super, super powerful to understand. The one thing we have in this life is we can't control the events that happen to us, but we can control what we focus on. We can control the meaning that we give to those events. And we can control the choice we make to activate or to respond based upon those events. So choices are so incredibly powerful. And when you think of goals and you base them down to the literal pragmatic practicality of what they are, it's choices. You're putting a choice into action. And here's a powerful thing for you to understand. It's not the conditions of your life that control your destiny. It's the decisions of your life that control the destiny. So it's not the conditions, all the external things, right? I tell you, I have a migraine today. I suffer from them a lot, so I'm actually kind of drugged up right now. But it's not the conditions. It's the decisions that you make. The goal setting is about the decision that you're committing to. When you put a goal down on paper, you're having a decision that you're making. The first thing you need to think of is the why, the reason behind your goal. This is probably the most important thing, is to set down the why. Why do people fail into February? 80% of New Year's resolutions are done by February, according to Google, because probably the why was not thought of when they set that goal. And when I say why, what I want you to think of is I want you to think deeper than just the result that you're looking for from a monetary standpoint, right? So often we get into this business and we have this monetary goal, and that's super important. But you got to spend time elevating up over that monetary goal to the real why behind that. And here's why. Ed Milet said this, and this is really, really good. My reasons why are massive, so my standards must be high. So I want to break that down for you. Because his reasons are so massive, because his why is so important to him, it flows down to the standards that he's made in his life. So if you think about it, if your reason why is to make $1 million this year, and I hope for all of you, you make $1 million this year, right? If your reason why is to make $1 million this year, your standards are going to flow from that. But what Ed Milet talks about, which is so powerful, and this is what I've applied to my own life. I have a little girl, right? She's turning 2 in January. She's one of my reasons why. I want to be there for my little girl as she grows up. So if you apply that to like your health in your life, and you don't want to get up and you don't want to go to the gym today, ask yourself, hey, do you want to be there for your kids? Do I want to be there to walk my daughter down the aisle? Do I want to be there to see her kids, to where I can be a grandfather? Man, that massive reason why is going to translate down to my standards. And when I got up this morning and it's freezing here outside of Philadelphia, and I didn't want to get to the gym at 5 a.m., guess what? I got to the gym at 5 a.m. because the reason for my goals is so massive that it flows down to my standards. The same applies to your business. And I tell people this all the time. It's great. I said this last week with Stephen Guilfoyle. It is awesome when you get into business at first to go after and chase the money. But what you learn when you get a little money is that the money doesn't quite motivate you to get out of bed, to make those phone calls, to go that extra mile. You've got to really search for that why and that reason that's bigger than just the monetary reward or the materialistic reward. And it really has to be about impact. And why I say it has to be about impact is because I will quote this all year long. If you want to live a life of significance, it comes from a life of service. It comes from a life of impact. And ultimately, what we're chasing, when you think about what we want more of in this life, we want more happiness. Why do we want to make more money? Because ultimately, we see that money as a tool to bring happiness and fulfillment in our life or to the lives of others that surround us, right? So everything comes down to this life of significance and fulfillment. Now, I have to say this because I think it's true. I'm not preaching about going out there or against going out there and trying to make a lot of money. I think you all should be rich. But being rich and having money can help you get happiness, but it doesn't fulfill you. It can rent happiness, as they say, but it doesn't fulfill you. So you got to have a massive why. One thing that I think happens to us when it comes to why, a lot of times we get motivated by materialistic things that I was talking about, but also times we get motivated by the opinions of others. And motivation that comes from the opinions of others, I believe, is really cheap motivation and will fail you. So if you find yourself setting out this year and you're setting a goal, and I tell this to my sales team, right? If your goal is just to beat the person next to you or to prove to that person next to you that you're better than them or to prove to them that you are, something great, that will fail you. That's cheap motivation. And in fact, it's one of the biggest diseases I think we face as humans on this planet is we constantly live in this game of comparison. Our whole lives are dictated by comparison and the opinions of others. And you see this often in sales. I'm really speaking through the lens of I have 300 employees, 140 of those are salespeople that get on the phones every single day. And I want to help them as they set their goals, set goals that will drive them, that they won't fail at, that they'll actually succeed in. And when I hear salespeople talking about, hey, they just want to prove this person wrong, it's awesome. That can be a little motivator for you. But I ask my sales team, dig deeper to a bigger why than that, because that why will fail you and that why will also consume you. And I have found that when you live in this game of comparison and you live in this game of constantly just existing to beat the competition, it leads you into just a spiral down into depression and discouragement, right? So those little things can be chips on your shoulder to help you a little bit through the day, but they can't be your ultimate reason why to set the goal. Second thing you need to think about when you're setting a goal is after you get to the definition of the why, what are you pushing for? You need to look at your history. So this is where most people fail in their marketing. They fail in their business as a whole. Those who do not look at history are what? Are doomed to repeat it. You need to look at history. Here's a great question for you. Okay. What are the top 5 things that you're most proud of that you accomplished as a business and in your life in 2022? And how did you accomplish those things? What were the things behind accomplishing those top 5 things? It's a great exercise for you to do is write down the top 5 accomplishments that you have. And you should be able to track, why did you get those accomplishments? What were the activities that led to that result? And then also write down what were the biggest failures and what were the things that attributed to those failures? What caused those failures? If you don't look at your history, it is insanely hard to not repeat. And we all know this, that if you don't change what you're doing and you expect different results, I think that's called the definition of insanity. So if you're walking into 2023 right now and your goal is to make $1 million, right? And you go out and you do the same activities that you did in 2022 and you didn't make $1 million, how do you expect to get different results without improving what you did? And you can't improve something you don't measure. So if you find yourself today where you haven't tracked in 2022 what you've done, your activities, and what led to these successes, that's okay. Beat yourself up. But I always tell people, beat yourself up enough to change. Don't beat yourself into paralysis. Don't beat yourself into discouragement, but you need to change. Start today. Start tracking what you're doing every single day. So when you get to the end of 2023, you can sit there as you're setting your goals for 2024, and you can sit there and go, okay, here are the activities I did, and they led to these results, and these results were great for my business. Here are the activities that I did, and they led to failure. So I'm not going to repeat those, and I'm going to improve and double down on the things that did well and improve upon those and forget the things that actually hurt me. Remember, your history is the greatest indicator of what you can achieve. And that leads to the third point. I believe you should set SMART goals for your business. Now, I used to be a 10X guy. So I love Grant Cardone. I think there's a lot of great info that he puts out. I've been following him since he was a car dealer, but I actually disagree with him when it comes to setting 10X goals for your team. And why I disagree with him is because my own experience has proven to fail me. And what do I mean by that? When Grant Cardone talks about setting 10X goals, I believe he's more referring to the number one thing I talked about, which is your why. Your reason for existing, what you're shooting for, what your impact is. You need a 10X that. That needs to be your BHAG. As if you've ever read the book Good to Great, your big, hairy, audacious goal, something that you maybe will never achieve, but because you set the bar so high, it pushes you every single day. And like they say, if you shoot for the stars, if you miss, you'll land on the moon. When Grant Cardone's talking about 10X, I believe it really applies there. I think thinking about 10X as an exercise for your practical day-to-day business is a good exercise, meaning it challenges you to think bigger. If you want to grow to $10 million in sales this year, why not go through the exercise of going, what if I grew to 100 million in sales this year? Or what if I grew to $1 billion in sales this year? What would it take? It's a great exercise to walk yourself through, but it shouldn't be the goals that you actually set for your team and for yourself. And I'll tell you why, because when I've done that, guess what's happened to me? I've set 10X goals. The team has missed those goals. And here's what I've lost in missing those goals. I've lost accountability. When you don't set SMART goals, where you have specific goals that are measurable goals, that are achievable goals, that are relevant goals, that are time bound, that's what SMART stands for as an acronym. When you don't set a SMART goal, but you set a 10X goal, what you lose is you lose accountability. I can't come to my VP of sales, Mike, anymore and go, hey, because you didn't hit this goal, you no longer get that bonus. Because you didn't hit this goal, this is what happens to you in the process. And I've lost accountability. But when I set actual SMART goals that are specific, that are measurable, meaning it's not just a intangible out here that we want to improve in our culture, but I have measurable things of how I judge improvement in culture. When they are achievable, here's the key point. Achievable, something that I sit down with Mike, my VP of sales, and he's part of the process of walking through. Hey, we want to push ourselves. Mike wants greatness like I want greatness. So we want to stretch ourselves. We want to push ourselves. But what do we believe is achievable that we can push the team to that stretches them, but is possible so we can reward them in their execution? And then is relevant not only to the revenue that we're trying to chase and the goal we're trying to hit, but relevant to where we want to go as a vision of a company, the 10X goal up there at the vision level. It's relevant to that goal. And then most importantly, it's time bound, meaning how am I going to judge this from a deadline perspective? And this was something that in my early years of running this business, I really, really messed up. Is I set really big goals because I wanted to motivate. I wanted to push us. I didn't want to settle for mediocrity. I wanted to shoot for the stars and land on the moon. But the problem there is what happens is you can't have accountability. And most of the people on your team might be good, but there's probably a cancer on your team right now. And you and I both know it. Usually when you're pushing so hard in your business to get somewhere and you're not moving, it usually means there's someone in your organization that's not in alignment. If you think of everybody in your organization, if they have an oar and they're sticking their oar in the river and they're rowing, if we're all rowing together, we move forward. But if there's people on the boat that are rowing against, the boat can turn right to the left or to the right, and you end up going in a circle if you have too many people rowing in different directions. So what you have to realize is when you don't set SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, you have no way to go source that person out to be able to say, hey, you're not doing your part on the team. You're not measuring up. Guess what? If we're a football team, you're not running the route the proper way. The route is down 4 steps and to the left, or to the left 5 steps. It's not down 4 steps and then stop, right? You're dropping the ball. And if you're a team member that's dropping the ball and not running the routes, guess what happens? You got to get off the team. You got to get on that bench or get off the team altogether. When you just set goals that are to the moon, that you're shooting for greatness, you can't have accountability. And you can tell I get passionate about this is because you get passionate about on the things you failed at. And I failed at this for many, many years because I love motivation. It's probably why I'm doing the mindset, Monday mindset. I love motivation. I think you should shoot for greatness. But guess what? If you can combine shooting for greatness with the discipline of actually looking smart goals and taking the time. I find that a lot of times people do really, really big goals because they don't want to have the discipline to get into the details, to look at their history, to look at their past performance, to measure everything they do so they can be accountable and they can set goals that are true. Because if you have a goal without a plan, which is really that data and knowing what you've done and what you haven't done and what works and what doesn't work, then it's just a wish, as they say. So those are my thoughts. They're just some of them when it comes to setting goals that, hey, the reason why you got to have a goal is because you can't hit a target that you can't see, and you can't see a target that doesn't exist. And when you first go to set those goals, you need to first focus on the why, the reason. Like, what's the big reason? Is it, your daughter, like it is for me? Is it like my parents, right? My dad's a pastor. My dad's made no money his whole life. He always jokes and says he made 8 investments. And those were his 8 kids because he has no money. Well, one of my motivations is that, hey, I want to make sure I take care of my dad as he gets older and my mom, that they never have to worry for anything because I'm taking care of them. That gets me out of bed. That enables me to pick up the phone. That enables me this week. I'm flying out to California to try to close a deal. That is what motivates me when my emotion is going like this, because my why is bigger. So you got to find that why. And then you got to look at your history of your successes and your failures and what brought those, and then use that history to define and plan out your SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. Hey guys, it's Monday. I'm motivated. I hope you're motivated. I appreciate it. Sorry I haven't been putting the comments through. I see some comments here, but I appreciate you guys jumping on. And if you like this, please comment below what your goals are, some of the things that you think of when it comes to your tactics and how you plan out your goals. If there's things you think would be really, really valuable to this group here, as we're trying to plan out our goals for ourselves and for our teams next year, I would love to see some other tips down in the comments. But appreciate you guys, and I hope you crush it. Like I always close out with, get out there, crush it for your clients, for your family, and for yourself. Let's go make it a great week. Have a great one, guys.